Good evening and thank you for joining us. We are joined today by Advocate Prakash Ambedkar Sahab. Hello, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting.
Sir, the VBA is perceived to be an umbrella body of organizations by the media. Could you please clarify that for us?
The Vanchitbahujanaghadi is not an umbrella for organizations, but it itself is an organization which is working for the upliftment of those society which has been left out historically and also at the present time.
Right.
During the kingly states, only the Savarnas, as we refer in the common language,
Yes.
were a part and parcel of the administrative unit.
Right.
The rest of the society was left out. After freedom, it was expected that the left out class would also be a part of the new administrative system. But the political parties did not favor that. They continued with the old caste system and the old system of being left out.
Right.
And concentrated the power in their own hands. So we basically are working on that class, uniting them and see that they come to the center stage of the Indian politics.
Okay. So what is the symbol of the party and will it be the same across all the seats?
Yeah, the symbol of the party is gas cylinder. And in all 288 constituencies of Maharashtra, the symbol will be same, that is the gas cylinder.
Right. So what is the VBA stand on education if you come to power?
See, since we are representing the marginalized class, they are economically deprived, they are socially backward,
Yes.
and economically they don't have any means of livelihood. They depend upon the land labor or whatever little work they receive at the hands of the others. Therefore, giving them free education is our primary goal. But we would not restrict the free education only to the marginalized class, but we would include the other classes also. And therefore, what we say is that from KG to PG, the education responsibility should be on the government. And even if it has to spend 12% of the budget, it should spend. But this is the future generation of a nation. At an earlier age, if a feeling is allowed to develop, that even for his education he has to buy the education or he has to pay for the education, then normally he develops into think that everything, whatever needs to be done, has to be compensated in monetary terms. And if that is not compensated, then he feels that he is being deprived of it. And that is where I think so corruption breeds also.
Absolutely. And could you also then tell us a little bit about the other key points of the VBA's manifesto, sir?
See, what we are now insisting upon is that environment is one of the bigger issues.
Yes.
And preserving the present environment is one of the major tasks, I feel. And deforestation that has taken place in this country is to be replaced by forestation. So if you want to stop the deforestation, then the families you need to target. And I feel that those who are still using the wood as a fuel for cooking. You have the Ujala gas scheme.
Yes, sir.
But 20% of the people have opted out of it. 30% of the people have still not joined it for a simple reason that they can't afford the gas cylinder.
Yes.
And therefore, looking at the environmental issue which is being highlighted day in and day out, both in India and internationally, what we propose is that to give a subsidy to the users of Ujala, 100 rupees per cylinder, limited up to 7 cylinders per year, so that it becomes affordable to him. And once it becomes affordable to him, then he will not burn the fossil fuel or the wood fuel. And that would be preservation of environment, we would call it. Secondly, what we would do if we come back to power is go about in plantation, but not in the manner in which BJP has done. They claim that they have planted nearly about 3 crores or 33 crores trees, which we don't see anywhere. It is just an eyewash, I would say it. But if we come to power, I think so what we'll do is seed bombing. Seed bombing is a concept where you utilize the air services.
Okay.
And before the rainfall season begins, you just bomb the areas where you want deforestation to take place. In one sortie, I would say you poured nearly about more than 1 lakh of seeds.
Okay.
And even if there is a germination of 1%, you have 10,000 trees. And the survival rate, even if you take the survival rate as 1%, then again you have 1,000 trees
Right.
in one sortie. So that, I think so, is the best way in which deforestation which has taken place can be forested. So that's one of the ways in which we do. Second is the class that we represent came into service government sector in the 90s, that's OBCs.
Right.
Other backward classes as they are referred up.
Right.
The Supreme Court has put a ban that there will be no reservation in promotion. But what we propose is that in the promotional policy, the reservation policy will be followed, because unless and until you have somebody at the helm of the affairs who knows the societal reality, he will not be able to go around in the correct manner. And therefore what we propose is that in the promotional policy, reservation for the OBCs will be followed. Second is, we have today 65,000 seats going vacant. And there are large number of seats from the OBC categories which are left open, I would say. I'm using the word left because they qualified but couldn't join it, only for a simple reason that they were not able to afford the fee. The parents were not able to afford the fees.
Right.
And therefore what we propose is that as the SC/ST students get scholarship, on the same line the OBC students should also get scholarship. And that scholarship should be every 5 years or every 3 years. It should be increased so that it becomes in line with the cost of living.
Right.
So that's what we intend to do. There is a wasteful expenditure that is being carried out.
Okay.
In some of the cities, you don't need the metro system. I take the case of Nagpur. Nagpur doesn't need a metro system. It's a total failure. So we will go into the assessment of all these schemes where the failure has taken place and take the corrective measures so that the transport is in a better shape. You take the city of Pune in which we are sitting.
Yes.
Across the city, there are 3 major rivers, and they are perennial rivers, and there are huge dams on which water is released. If there is proper planning, these waterways can be developed for the Pune city. So also there are other cities also where the river flows across the city, but we have never thought of using waterway as a means of transport. That is one way we would like to contribute ourselves. The next issue which will be coming up will be the farmers' issue.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of suicides, and giving him at least see that he gets the minimum support price declared by the government. So that is one. Then you have what you call it as a wet zone and a dry zone. Transferring water from the wet zone to the dry zone is also a challenging task, and we propose to do that. Transferring water from the dry zone, from the wet zone to the dry zone, so that the drought is minimized. We will not say it will be eliminated, but it will be minimized, and it will become bearable for the government to bear the cost of rest of the drought-prone areas. There are many issues which we will be talking about as election process begins. So these are few which I just highlighted.
Right. Thank you so much for that. Moving on, sir. Now that so many Congress and NCP leaders have left, the VBA looks like it will be the main opposition party. So what will you do different from them, sir?
So what we are aiming now is to be in the government. And the kind of support that we are getting across the state and across the society, we will be in a better position, and we might form the government. And therefore, many of us heard that the Chief Minister himself was speaking, saying that Vanchitbahujanaghadi might be the opposition party. But our reports say that situation as to who are crossing over to BJP from the NCP and Congress, there are two classes.
Yes.
One class who has genuinely been investigated and therefore he wants a protection from investigation, he is joining. There is another class who is joining, who is not being investigated. Even then he is joining. And they are joining only because of the Vanchitbahujanaghadi's factor. But we are speaking of a marginalized class being brought into the center stage of decision making. All along, who are now walking over to BJP have seen to it that the Vanchit class doesn't become a part and parcel of a decision making, nor do they become the center of attraction. Therefore, there is a trend that if you want to meet this class of people, or you want to keep out the Vanchitbahujanaghadi, then all those who have been in power should be in one political party. That is one angle which is forcing many of the families who have been in power for the last 40 years, 50 years, to shift over to BJP, even they are not being investigated. So only if those who are investigating are joining BJP, that's not a true story. Even those who are not being investigating but being a part of a parcel of this country and of Maharashtra, they would like to see that Vanchit not joining or not becoming part of the center state. Therefore, they are joining one party, that is the BJP.
Right. Thank you for that insight. So, do you feel the Congress has lost all its credibility due to the inability to stitch new alliances across India?
See, they have not been able to stitch alliances even after offers have been made by different political parties. My hunch is that Congress has been blackmailed. There are many cases pending against Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Robert Vadera, and many of the congressmen. Cases have been filed. Sometimes we hear that a hard prosecution is going on.
Right.
And later on we find that there is coolness coming down in those cases. So why there is coolness, we don't understand. And why a prosecution which has started 4 years ago has not come to a conclusion even in the 5th year. So this is what I feel is that BJP is using blackmail as a tool to subdue political parties to submission. And Congress, I think so, is being subdued because of these investigations and cases being filed against the leaders and against the president also.
Right. So, sir, then is the VBA the only party which really stands for the development, progress and the people of Maharashtra?
At least in Maharashtra, yes. We are the party who have been raising voices. Let's take the current issue. Maharashtra produces nearly about more than 20% of cotton of the country. Cotton is a major crop in 17 districts. And today, cotton has landed from United States in Gujarat, and therefore the candy prices, which should have been around 45 to 47,000 per candy, has not even crossed 41,000 this time. And the simple reason is that the American gin cotton has landed in Gujarat ports at 4,000 rupees per quintal. That comes to about 40,000 per candy. Now this 1,000 difference which is there because you need a transport cost, so that transport cost is taken care of and therefore the prices are on. This time I think so the cotton farmer is going to be in very, very bad shape. Because I am told that large quantities of cotton has been booked and that will be imported to India. And if that happens, then the cotton prices in India would hover around 3,500 per quintal, whereas the MSP price, that is the minimum support price, is 5,500 per quintal. So the difference is nearly about 2,000 rupees. And therefore, there might be a lot of suicides within the cotton growing farmers, and this situation has been brought about by the present government. And therefore, we are the only party now who's raising this issue of the farmers all around and giving them the explanation as to why this happened. You must have remembered that the Prime Minister, in one of his visits, met American President Donald Trump.
Right.
And you might have seen the clapping of hands.
Yes.
And then there was an euphoria in this country saying that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is so popular and so overwhelming that he can give a clap to President Donald Trump. But according to me, the cost of that clap is being paid by the Indian cotton growing farmers. There is a trade war which is going on between US and China. China has stopped importing American cotton, and therefore there is no place where the Americans can now sell the cotton. They have turned towards India. Donald Trump has allowed himself to be used in making Modi believe that by giving a clap he is going to raise his TRP in India. But he has assured his farmer that his cotton crop will not go in waste, it will be sold and India will be the market. Modi, the present BJP government, for his own TRP, has sacrificed the farmer. That is the situation. We therefore see that the cotton growing farmer moving from BJP towards Vanchitbahujanaghadi.
Right. So this then raises the question, do you think this government has any real economic vision for our country?
This government doesn't have any vision. It doesn't have an international policy. When Gaddafi was overthrown, it was BJP which was ruling. They didn't know what to do. They started fumbling over the whole thing. You must have your own economic policy, and you also at the same time you must have your foreign policy also. And that foreign policy should be a sound policy. On both these counts, I see this government lacking, that they don't have any foreign policy, nor do they have an economic policy, and therefore recession has crept into the country. They say, yes, internationally also the recession has crept in, but that recession will peak in 2022 and continue for another 5 years, as some of the leading economists have been saying it. But India being a different country, I doubt whether recession can creep into this country. What you need is a proper administrator,
Right.
who can understand the situation and correct the situation. We don't find the BJP has any person who's capable of administering the state.
Right.
And therefore, Vanchitbahujanaghadi has person of eminent character, intellectual capacity, who understand things and who can administer the state also, where the issue of recession, present recession in this country, can be arrested and the clock can be put back in its proper place.
Right, sir. Now, I think the real question on everyone's mind today is if the VBA plans to expand beyond Maharashtra. If yes, then when and where, sir?
We definitely have a plan of expanding beyond Maharashtra. but we will do it after the assembly elections are over. At present, we are concentrating on Maharashtra Assembly because we see that we are in a position to form a government. Whatever the Chief Minister might say that there is no opposition, but he is contradicting himself by saying that the main opposition party would be Vanchitbahujanaghadi. So there is contradiction within himself, and that contradiction speaks for itself that the Vanchitbahujanaghadi has not only gathered force but is challenging the BJP on the programs to be implemented and executed in the coming 5 years. There we are ahead of BJP because they are empty-headed. They don't have any plans what to do in 5 years. And therefore, we feel that since we are addressing the common man issue on water, on employment, on security, on mob lynching, and need to control the society, I think so, in the end, the masses will come along with us.
Right, sir. What are your views on the government action taken on Article 370, sir?
It's like an instant idli decision. You have this instant release. I do agree that Ladakh being a different and Jammu being different, they would accept the abolition of Article 370. But the real question is of Kashmir. Would the Kashmiris accept the abolition of Article 370? I would say no. For a simple reason that in 2014, when this present government came in, there was a reference within the Kashmiris, that is within the valley, I would say, not the Jammu side, not the Ladakh side, but with the valley side, that we are being ruled by the Hindus and we are Muslims. This sentiment, I think so, was perpetuated when BJP joined the government with Mehbooba Mufti. And when they withdrew, this feeling got even strengthened in saying that the Hindus are not interested in allowing the Muslims to rule. And therefore, even after passing of nearly more than a month, Ladakh is quiet, Jammu is quiet, but Kashmir Valley is not quiet. It's still under curfew in some of the areas. Whenever there is any religious function taking place, there is 144 which is clapped. And that speaks itself that there is a distrust between the government and the Kashmir Valley. Now this is within India. One of the fallouts of this abolition of 370, which none are speaking of, not they are taking into consideration, is our hold on Pakistan, on Pak-occupied Kashmir was through the Constitution of Kashmir. Because the Kashmiri Constitution was framed by the Dogra themselves and with consent of the Indian government. So they included Pak-occupied Kashmir within their own territory and they kept some seats vacant for it. With the abolition of the Article 370, the separate constitution of the Jammu and Kashmir has been abolished. And the consequence is that the line of control has now become an international line of control. Because you have made that into a union territory.
Right.
You have not made it into a state, you have made it into it. There's a difference between a state and a union territory.
Right.
Since you have converted into a union territory, it is directly under the control of the government of India. And being directly under the control of government of India, whatever borders laid down by government of India becomes an international borders.
Right.
The actual line of control becomes the international line of control. What the Indian people have not realized is, and what the citizens have not realized is that we fought 3 wars. Or I will include the 1948 war also as a 4th war on the Pak-occupied Kashmir. BJP, for its own glorification, has sacrificed the nation. They have donated Pak-occupied Kashmir to Imran Khan as a gift. No doubt Imran Khan is making noises of war, but those noises are for different reasons, that he wants to divert the attention. And Imran Khan wants to become more popular in his country by saying that without war I have brought in Pak-occupied Kashmir. Give me time, I will bring in Kashmir also. So the situation which I feel is Kashmir going to become a second Palestine? RSS is known for its very, very close relations with the Israelis. And the Israelis are very much interested in getting the Palestine issue off the bat. If Kashmir becomes Palestine, then Israelis have a breathing ground. Nobody will be pressing them, breaking them, or breathing down their neck. The focus then changes from Palestine to Kashmir.
Right.
If that happens, it will be a sad day for India. What we have not realized is that the Indian Prime Minister is moving from one country to the another country. And left, right and center, he is signing agreements running into billions of dollars. Recently there is a talks of giving $1 billion lead to the Russian government. Earlier when they came, they made an offer of $65,000 of purchasing hardwares from military hardwares from the Russia. Now we find that some talks are going about for buying hardwares from the Americans. Saudi is also breathing down our neck. My hunch is we are paying the price for abolition of 370 and for the support of the international forces. How long this are we going to continue? The day we stop buying articles, the day we stop pampering all these international forces, the focus is going to go back again to Kashmir. And we have seen time and again Donald Trump making efforts to internationalize Jammu. So we have a very hard time ahead, and this I think so the Indians should take into consideration with the economic situation that we are facing. One small war will push us back nearly 50 years.
Just one last question. What action do you think can be taken by the government to solve the problem of a lack of jobs and unemployment?
See, every country has its own industrial policy. India doesn't have its own industrial policy. It's a copy master. The world over population is dwindling, therefore they go in for robo. India has a very large unemployed population. So robo becomes only in scientific sense and importance, but in real sense it doesn't become any importance because it's a labor displacement technology. And you need a technology that will employ the unemployed people. So you have to have a total kind of industrial setup.
Thank you so much for sharing that broad-based understanding with us, sir.